And let me make a final point. For a while now, the main contribution of some of my friends on the other side of the aisle have made in the fight against ISIL is to criticize this administration and me for not using the phrase radical Islam.
Cornelius, I implore you to see reason.
This is a political distraction. Since before I was president, I've been clear about how extremist groups have perverted Islam to justify terrorism. As president, I have repeatedly called on our Muslim friends and allies at home and around the world to work with us to reject this twisted interpretation of one of the world's great religions.
Many reasonable people around the world have been scratching their head for the past couple of years, wondering why Obama and other Western leaders refuse to name the root cause of the terrorist wave that is currently washing over the West. It is obvious to anyone who studies the matter that the terrorists are not twisting the values of the religion that must not be named, but that their interpretation of it is quite in line with its holy texts. It is also clear that their views are quite mainstream, shared by a large number of the adherents of that religion, even if most of them do not condone their actions. That religion is thus a breeding ground for terrorists, and as long as it is the way it is, it will continue to produce terrorists. By refusing to name it as the source of the problem, and making it seem like the problem is just a few extremists who use the religion to justify their psychotic tendencies, Obama is seemingly refusing to acknowledge reality. You might think that it is just stupidity on his part, or that maybe he has ulterior motives, but then every other Western leader is doing it as well, which means that it is a tactic. And the question is, what is it trying to achieve? Well, to me, as someone who lives in the Middle East, it was always very clear why they use this tactic, and I always assumed others understand it as well. But I've realized I was wrong. Here, for instance, is Sam Harris, trying to make sense of their logic, and in my opinion completely missing the mark.
But it still is important how we talk about these things. And they obviously think it's important because they're loath to use any honest terminology to talk about these things. They think it's so combustible that if you call a spade, you're going to basically win the war of ideas for ISIS, right?
Yeah.
But we should just be clear about what that is actually suggesting. It's saying that there are some significant number of people, a non-trivial number of people in the Muslim community who, and whether they're thinking this is tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or tens of millions, I don't know, but certainly enough to worry about, who are just doctors and dentists and just coaching Little League, and they want to live the American dream or the European dream as much as anyone. These are people who are never going to do anything bad to anyone. But if you talk about this problem in a sufficiently polarizing way,
Right, you might.
and in particular, if you admit that there's a link between Islamism and jihadism and specific doctrines within the religion of Islam, right? So there's a religious motivation to this extremist behavior.
Mm-hmm.
If you admit that, you are going to drive these peaceful, honest, trustworthy people into the arms of the theocrats. It's either, in this, I call it the narrative because people often say you don't want to confirm the narrative of ISIS. If we call this radical Islam, we're confirming the narrative of ISIS or jihadists generally, that this is a war between the West and Islam. And it is a terrifying possibility, which I think is in fact sincerely worried about by people like President Obama and Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. But you would say sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that if you actually acknowledged that there was a religious link here, right, then some number of more people would just jump on the side of the religion. It's like, well, if you're going to ask me to choose between Islam, as it was practiced in the 7th century, and your Western values that don't really support burning people alive in cages and throwing gays from rooftops and all that, well, I'm going to have to go with Islam. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter that, I got to be in Orange County in 15 minutes to take my kid to a movie, right?
Right.
It's, how many people like that exist? I mean, certainly some, but I think it's the reason why it's bad not to talk honestly about the link to religion is because our denial of that link puts absolutely no pressure on the Muslim community to get its act together. I mean, the only Muslims can solve this problem.
If I understand Sam correctly, he interprets Obama's stance thus: if we admit that the radicals are genuine representatives of the religion that must not be named, we will be confirming what the radicals are saying. And when we do that, the adherents of that religion, who at the moment believe that the radicals are perverting its teachings, will realize that the radicals are actually true believers, and many of them will then be moved to join them. Harris, quite rightly, thinks that this is a very weak logic. But is that really what Obama is saying? It's surprising that Sam Harris, who often talks about the bad ideas that infest the Middle East, is seemingly unaware of some of the most pervasive of these bad ideas. If he was aware, he would have known that one of the most widespread ideas in the region is the idea that the West's real agenda is to start a holy war to take over the Middle East. This is a fear that is very deeply ingrained, so if Obama, the leader of the Western world, will make it a war against the religion that must not be named, this will be a confirmation of that fear. At that moment, many people in the Middle East will stand behind the radicals, believing that they are the only ones that can protect them against this new crusade. This is what Obama and the other Western leaders are trying to avoid, and this is also what he is trying to tell us, if you listen carefully to what he's saying.
They want us to validate them by implying that they speak for those billion-plus people, that they speak for Islam. That's their propaganda. That's how they recruit. And if we fall into the trap of painting all Muslims with a broad brush and imply that we are at war with an entire religion, then we are doing the terrorist work for them.
That last part is what Sam Harris seems to be missing. It's not that by saying the name of the religion that must not be named, Obama will affirm that the radicals are true representatives of it. It's that by saying the name, he will affirm the fears of the people of the Middle East that this is actually a holy war against them. This fear runs so deep that even a hint would be enough to ignite it. Now, you might say, that doesn't make sense. We don't want Obama to say that the religion that must not be named is bad. All we want is for him to name it as the source of the problem, and ask the good adherents of that religion to fix what needs to be fixed in it. There's no need for them to feel threatened by such a request. But this, once again, shows a misunderstanding of the Middle Eastern frame of mind. You see, over here, everything revolves around honor. In many parts of the region, losing your honor is the worst thing that can happen to you. A man who is incapable of defending his honor is therefore perceived as weak, as someone who will not be able to defend anything else either. So if you don't show that you are willing to defend your honor, you will signal weakness to your enemies, and then you might lose everything. That is why they react so violently to caricatures of you-know-who. In their cultural context, the caricatures are perceived as an attempt to insult their honor and test their resolve, and they believe that if they do not react harshly, the West will regard them as weak and as ready to be conquered. And if the leader of the Western world criticizes their religion, even in a hint, they will perceive it as disrespect, a direct attack on their honor. Begrudgingly, I have to agree with Obama that his is the right tactic. I know it is annoying, because it gives legitimacy to all those regressive idiots who claim that the current wave of terrorism has nothing to do with any religion. But if our leaders spoke honestly, as Obama's detractors are demanding, it would only make things much worse. So the question becomes, what can we do to fight back against the ideas that fuel the radicals, if we can't even criticize them? Well, I didn't say that we can't criticize them. While our political leaders can't speak the truth on the matter, there's no reason that we shouldn't. Unlike Angela Merkel, who tries to prevent common people from having a debate about it, Obama never said that we shouldn't speak the truth. Ever since Sam Harris pointed out that liberals have failed to address this issue, thousands of YouTube channels have answered the call and started naming that religion that must not be named.
You might as well use it. It's going to try to kill you either way.
We can name Islam as the source of the problem, and we can put pressure on Muslims to reform their religion. No Muslim preacher can make his listeners believe that what's been said on some YouTube channel is a declaration of war by the Western world. Unlike our politicians, we can and should criticize Islam, support those Muslims who try to reform it, shame Muslims for the immoral implications of it, and mock them for the stupid beliefs contained in it. This is a cultural war, and it should be waged on ground level. Stop fretting about what our political leaders are saying. In this war, we are the leaders. Many Americans are still romanticizing Ronald Reagan's tough stance against the Soviet Union, believing that all we need is a leader who would take the same attitude towards Islam, and Islamism would just crumble and fall into dust. They are forgetting the state of the Soviet Union at the time. Reagan took power after decades of careful maneuvering by Western leaders, who managed to avoid an all-out war with the Eastern Bloc and allow the culture war to take place instead, a culture war in which Western culture eventually showed its cultural, social, economic and moral superiority. By the 1980s, Leninist Marxism was completely bankrupt, a house of cards ready to fall, and Reagan's tough stance merely helped push it over. Islamism is not at that point yet, and our leaders are still called upon to show finesse. At the moment, it is Muslims who are doing most of the fighting against the jihadists, and it is Muslims who are suffering 90% of the casualties. You better hope it stays that way, in the decades that it will take to dismantle the ideas that allow jihadism to prosper. Obama's policy is meant to ensure that outcome, and, in my best judgment, is the right policy.